It is Modern Craftsman Tuesday. Did we ever tell people that we record on Tuesday?
I don't know if we did.
Nah, I feel like it's
Secret's
going to
out.
ruin everything. It's Modern Craftsman Monday. Today, no guest today. Nick had to leave early to pick up the kids. It pretty much was an hour and a half of Nick getting grilled.
Dude,
We love Nick. We get into business, and I feel like Nick's business comes up most. Nobody wants to talk to me about mine because I'll probably tell him to F off.
But we've been having this conversation behind
Yeah.
the podcast via text, and it's if you could do less projects and make the same or better salary, would you do it?
Yeah, it kind of
Or would you take on more?
Yeah, dig into why you're doing it. Is it for, the thrill of the hunt? Is it
Chasing paper?
the money? Is it to build a team? And obviously, I'm of no use to this conversation. The conversation's mostly between Nick and John.
Oh, come on. You definitely got in it.
No, it was good. Like I said, I think I wanted to make sure that we kind of ended the conversation with an emphasis on how important Nick is to his business, because I think a lot of times he doesn't give himself the credit, or he's a selfless person, and he's always putting other people's needs and other people's well-being before himself. And I think that sometimes he loses sight of what he brings to the table and how important that is for his business and the morale of his business and his customers and everything else. So I at least wanted to shed light on that. But it's just the three of us this time. Hope you guys enjoy it. Not too long, right? 2.5? 2 hours, 20 minutes. Not bad.
Yeah.
But as always, let us know what you think. Hop on SurveyMonkey, iTunes, leave us a review. Give us some insight, some feedback, and spread the word. As always, we appreciate the repost and the engagement, and letting us know what you think.
It's always good.
All right. The folks at Duration are pumped for JLC Live next week. I can't believe that that's next week already.
I know, it's insane.
It is.
Well, it's the first time in August, so.
Yeah, I guess the middle of summer is not typical, but August 12th to the 14th in Providence, Rhode Island. After a long absence from in-person shows thanks to COVID, it's time once again for them to get back on the road and do what they like to do best. Have those one-on-one conversations with pros. Be sure to check out industry veteran Rick Arnold daily with a live demo of best siding practices featuring, drumroll, Duration beveled siding, our new shake panels, and our one-piece outside corners in various molding profiles. We hope to see you guys there, and girls. To learn more about Duration polyester products, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com and be sure to follow them on IG. Word count 110. I wasn't supposed to read that. I can't believe JLC's next week, but I also just can't believe that it's kind of mid-August next week. That's scary to me, but things seem to be flying by.
Yeah, they do.
Also, Rick Arnold, great actor. Or is that Tom Arnold? Every time I see his name, I think Tom Arnold. Oh, well. I'm going to kill my kids very shortly if they keep opening this door. It's like, don't come into the room while I'm reporting a podcast, and everyone keeps coming in.
My goal isn't to be more removed. My goal is to have more people in place that are managing the job. I think of like the super, like 100% on site all the time, every day. The PM is running the financials, the schedule, like making sure it's a success from a business standpoint. And then I get to be in the fun stuff.
Yeah, but I just don't think that I love that you want that. I agree with you. Two of my guys went away like 2 weeks ago. So I was stuck like digging up dead bodies and dealing with everything. Dude, I love that. I love it. And then dealing with the clients and then getting production. Like I turned to one of my guys today and I'm like, dude, how awesome is this job when it's buzzing?
Yeah.
But like, I feel like you're just setting yourself up for frustration. Like Tyler put that in my head years ago. Are you giving 100% to that client?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you could put all these people in place It's like, no, I still want to buzz in there every day. Like we have it so it's 50-50. 50% of the super will be there, 50% of the PM. And that's on a sliding scale, depending on how much productivity we're looking to get. That might need to move.
Right.
You know, so I'm happy with where we're going, but it only, like, you can't do that when you have 7 jobs. There's not enough time in a day and realistic in life to be able to devote, 100% of your time to each job every day.
Not every day. No, absolutely not.
It's not, so getting the right jobs with the right budget, and then knowing that's what you're trying to target. Like I would love right now, I could take on these 3 builds, which will take us for the next 2 years. And there's still 4 other builds I could do. The thing is, I have to say no to those.
Right.
Because this is what I want to be doing. I don't want to, then I could easily see myself getting 2 more PMs and 2 more supers. Then we're feeding the machine. And it's so easily done that it's spooky, but I want to be like an architect. Mm-hmm. I want to say it like that, but I talked to Matt and Tyler. It's like, I'd rather be the point person for the whole thing. They can still talk to my PM and super, but like, I want to be in the interaction every day. And our clients want that. They want that boutique,
right?
Hands-on, thinking stuff out way beyond they need to be thought out. And I think the only way I can do that is if I'm running 3 jobs, and that's it.
Right. Well, because it gives you the time to be on each job, whether it was like each day gets a job, and then, one day for business and one day for whatever.
Well, it all depends on, I think I'll still be there every day. It just depends on, like right now I said I'm doing demo and we're doing design. I have nobody else on that job. It's just me, and I'm popping in 2 hours a day.
But don't you fear that if you move a guy over there at some point that they're going to be behind because they haven't had the chance to, like, have they been introduced to the job?
The design's not there, dude.
Yeah.
They don't need to be introduced.
Right.
What's the point? It's still an active design process where I'm getting design studies.
And that's where it's like, for me, that's where, like, for the last 2 years, 18 months, really, that we've looked at like all the things that we've failed at and how can we improve upon them. And they all come back to the fact that we didn't have enough time to prepare or plan for the project. And it's like, and I get it. Like, we're in this industry that a lot of times we just don't have the time. But when we did have the time, a lot of that time was taken up by me, where I was in the office going through the drawings, figuring out what this was going to take, putting a budget together, putting the schedule together, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden getting to a point where we're ready to execute. And it's like I hand it off, and that quote unquote handoff is too late because it's like, wait a second.
But here's the thing, like Tyler and I talked about this. There's very few people, even the people we have in our companies right now, that will actually digest those drawings. Like today, I walked on a job site today. I walked onto it and I go, with they're framing out for a dormer. And I'm like, there's no way those windows fit. Just straight up. I'm like, just by glancing at it, there's no way those fit. I go upstairs, break out my Sharpie, scale it out on my hands and knees. Then I measure it on the wall. And there's no way that the roof line that you're cutting in that's going to still stay below the windows. You'd have to create this flat roof off the sill. And I'm like, why are we going off reservation? Who's authorizing that we change this design? And it's a Patrick Hourihan design. I'm like, he's going to see it. He's going to sniff it by just turning the corner. Like, and I'm like, how do we get this right? And so I just sharpened it all out and scaled it all out. And like, no, you're a little low here, which makes you even lower in the header. And you can compensate there. But to shrink these windows that are already ordered, what's going on? So my point is that this is the same reason, Nick, that I think that I love Brad and Veranda for doing all of the, pre-con and design stuff. You're saying that you're doing it all and you're turning it over. We expect a client to do all that pre-con stuff before it's actually live, and they're not going to get fatigued, and they're not going to like just totally just go with whatever. You're setting yourself up for disaster. That's why I think we can't leave the process.
Okay, there's 2 things there. Number one, I don't think that we leave the process. But number 2,
then how does the turnover that you just explained, how is that such a big deal? If it drops off,
because previously I was giving it to, say, the PM that, hey, that you're going to run this job. It's like, well, you're like for example, like, well, you just finished demo and I haven't had, like, you've been looking at this job for 3 months. So I haven't even caught up on this job, or not to never mind the, I haven't even had a chance to look at the budget to see if, I feel comfortable with that budget. So now it's like, all right, going into these jobs, we're involving the people that are going to be running the job, and we're sitting down together as a team and figuring out, like, all right, does the time frame make sense to you? Does the budget make sense to you? Is there something I'm missing? Because I don't catch everything, and it's like, if I'm, if I'm the only one doing it or looking at it, and then I hand it off to someone else and they fail on it, it's like, well, what did I even give them a good starting point? It's like, did I even give them the opportunity to succeed, or did I completely miss something that I should have realized was going to take 4 weeks instead of 2? Or, or last time we did that, we thought it was going to cost 30 grand, but it ended up costing 50. And now in this budget, you have it back at 30. It's like, remember when, that's where it's like, I want my team involved earlier on, not from day one, but before that job is actually going. But the point you make about pre-construction and the client making all these decisions and fatigue, I agree with you there. But the key point there is that, because we're in
CEO talk.
But
hey, you're doing a great job.
You're doing a great job.
You're doing
but
amazing,
you really suck at this. No, I mean, it's important. Like, the big but is that you need to. I just said, but big but, and I'm sitting here laughing inside my head.
Puff can put a video in
I like big butts, and I cannot lie.
a little music to it.
I can't even say but now. I can't even say
a podcast on this.
What?
This topic.
Oh, but you made the comment about fatigue, and my thought there is that, because we're going through it right now with 3 jobs, and they are all extremely intensive meetings, but the teams that are putting together these designs, the presentations, and coming to the table with questions, there isn't a lot of micro questions. It's a lot of listening early on, and then they're putting together, hey, this is based on that one meeting, this is where we thought we'd end up. And I think that's where you can eliminate the fatigue, is if you have a good design team that listens really well and can take what they're hearing and put that into a design. Oftentimes it's not a matter of all these micro questions that, that people need to answer and ask. Like, you're hiring that design team, that architect, that designer to take what you've communicated and put something together. It's like, I keep thinking of like tile decisions. Tile decisions are super overwhelming. We talked about on the last podcast, like, you don't want to, don't tell me $15 a square foot, because then I'm going to show you everything 15 and under. It's like, let's forget all that and let's just figure out what your goal was. And rather than me saying, what tile do you want? You put that, you basically just put it out there in space and let it get, rather than having to make a decision, they're looking at it and finding out, do they like it? And if they don't, then we revisit it.
I think so much of it comes down to expectations for your customer and what they kind of envision this process is going to be, and what your company stands for and why they hired you. And, if you're exceeding expectations, obviously that's great. If you're hitting expectations, still good. If you are not delivering or measuring up to what they thought was going to be, it's going to be a miserable design process, build process, and everything else. And I think any time that you scale, right? If we go back 100 years, 150 years, when people are building, there's not such a time crunch. There wasn't the immediacy that everyone wants in society today. It was, you're going to do a job, you're going to plant yourself on that job. Everyone's going to have their hands in every trade, and when you're done, the job is done. And now, either for price point or for timeline, people want things to get done quicker and for less money. And now you have all of these specialties. You have specialists as far as trades go. You have design teams who are doing a design basically independent of the contractor, even if the contractor is involved. They're not with that person 24/7. And there's just a disconnect there no matter what when you start scaling. And then when you have a carpentry sub, when you have a hardwood floor sub, when you have a framing sub, everyone's on a different page no matter what way you slice it. And if the expectation is that you're going to execute on a level that's what a smaller scale company that handles everything in house can do, and you're on a larger scale, then you're setting yourself up to fail on that job because the customer is going to be disappointed. I believe that it's very difficult to execute when you have so many different specialists who only have one role in that job without somebody there who has the experience to connect the dots. You're still going to run into issues, but I don't know how much like going into it, knowing every single detail as much as planning somebody like a John Marley there who has enough experience and enough intelligence to put those pieces together with all of those sub trades. I think that for me, that's the only way that's going to get done on a larger scale company. And you're still going to run into all the issues and you're still going to have issues with customers and everything else. But we've just gotten so far away from how things were, where one person or one team is actually handling everything. And now you have 24 different teams coming together to build a single house. And it's like, how do you connect all of these so it's one linear process?
Right.
It's like a nightmare. I don't know how you do it unless it just seems like such an impossibility to me, and that's why I steer clear of it and I don't have the answers. I just feel like as the more and more that we specialize, the more difficult it's going to be on residential construction where nothing is the same ever. It's going to be harder to kind of hit the level that you want, or that you're advocating for your company. The more that we specialize, things will be done well. Like your carpentry may be a better quality of carpentry, but overall things are going to get missed. The design's going to get missed. The framing's not going to line up with what you wanted as far as trim and the cabinetry and where your countertop comes into the doorway. All that stuff is because there's different people doing each trade.
But I think your point about like having a John Marley or having someone on site that's overseeing that on a daily basis, that's where it's like that's really why we've made that shift towards having that structure, is because we understand, like looking back at our previous projects, it's like what got missed, what did we have to redo and why, and it often came down to the fact that someone wasn't on site during a really important part where it was like, there was the plumber understood one thing, but it didn't coordinate with the framing, and then things were off. And it's like, but if someone was there to kind of walk through that and understand what the end result was, that could have been caught. But
but at the same time, I feel like there's certain times that people need to be at jobs.
I agree with that.
I think the flip side is having Marley. Like the worry I have with the Marley situation is that the fatigue is now on that person. They're driving to the same place for the next 2.5 years. And there's going to be the ups and downs in this business where you're like, I'm done with this job. I'm done with this situation. I'm done with this budget. And now you have someone that's unhappy doing it. So it's...
Yeah, but that's like most people drive to the same place for more than 2.5 years.
And they hate it.
Sure.
That's my point.
But it's like I think, there's always going to be ups and downs in anything, regardless if they're running 2 jobs, 3 jobs, or 1 job. That fatigue is going to set into everyone depending on the success of that job, and that success.
I think a lot of us look at it where they love it because every product's different and it's smaller, and then as it blows up,
well, that's what I was going to get at. Is I think like this whole specialized trade thing has derived from the fact that homes are bigger and more complex than they used to be. Where it's like John, Tyler, me, like if I don't know why I said me, but like if we decided that we're going to go build 24 by 30 capes, we could do that shit ourselves. We could we could set the formwork, we could frame it, we could probably drywall it. Like they were much simpler homes. Like we could do that ourselves. We wouldn't have to work with specialty trades all through and through. I think
but no one knows what like the real specialty guys. I mean, sorry, the real like well-rounded guys are impossible to get.
Yeah,
like the Tom Silvers of the world. Those guys and girls that are out there, they are crushing it.
But that okay, perfect example. Tom Silva could go out and build a 24 by 30 home and do everything. But and I'm not saying he couldn't go and build a 6,000 square foot house with 7 zones of air conditioning and radiant, but homes have become more complex. Like if Tom had it his way, he wouldn't build that whole house himself. And again, I'm speculating, and you're looking at me like with devil eyes right now.
I'm not.
Maybe a little bit, but I just don't like. I think Tom would say no. This is different. Homes back then they were just a simpler structure. Now everything is much more complex that the guys that are doing everything, yes, there are some guys out there that can do everything really well, but the guys that are trying to do everything, the majority of them are only okay in all of those areas. So you end up with an okay product where it's like if you work,
everyone's okay for like the first 10 years,
but a lot of people stay okay. That's just that's the reality.
It depends. I think people, depending on the market, they don't have the luxury of doing what actually works for them in their financial situation. So they have to take on 24 kitchens for the year. They would love to do one. I feel like, that way life's easier.
I mean,
I don't know. I got hung up on this when I told Brad that I had to check a window order, and he's like, "Why are you doing the window order check?" And I was like, in my head screaming because I want to. Like there's something about that.
See, that's different. You didn't say that.
I know. That's what was in my head, but Brad was yelling at me, so I took offense to it, and I got sheltered. And I was like,
"So I just told this story recently when I interviewed for the company, the big developer I worked for before I started my own company. I went into that interview, and one of the guys recruited me. He called me twice. Finally, talked me into coming in. I walk in, I shake his hand. He tells me my hands are filthy. I said, I apologize. I try to clean them. He goes, no, I like it. You're a hard worker. Sit down. He brings in his boss. This guy sits across from me, shakes my hand, and he goes, so why do you want to leave your dad's business? And I'm like, I don't. You guys called me twice. He goes, no, shut up. Why do you want to leave your dad's business? And he kept asking me the same question over and over and over. And every time he asked, I'm like, I'm obviously answering this wrong, so I'll try something else. And finally he asked me again. I'm like, I just want to see what other opportunities are out there for me. And I feel like I'm not going to be able to grow working for my dad as much as I would like. He goes, all right, thanks. Got up and left the meeting. And what you just said about like, you're sitting there and Brad's yelling at you. That's what I'm thinking of. It's like, I wasn't answering it honestly. And he knew that. And Brad, whether he knew that you weren't answering honestly, it's like, that's the whole point of you checking the window orders, because that's what you want to do.
Well, it's funny. I didn't realize it until the conversation continued.
Yeah. But in his eyes, you were doing something that you didn't want to do, and you were choosing to do it because you didn't trust anyone.
Well, I think I see it in like, there's like a Harbor 4 guy that we use all the time, and he's huge. He's like building these places in the South End and all that. And I'm like, you call to get a window order and he still shows up. And in my head, I'm like, dude, isn't there someone else to do that? But it all depends on what you want for a company. Mm-hmm. I think I would love to be able to be boots in the ground and have a team. When I say a team, I think we're all saying team differently. Mm-hmm. I want to be like, drop into the office on the site and go through that window order with somebody. I want them to feel like they're not alone, because I feel like when you're dealing with hundreds or $1 million in construction, that can weigh on you. And I think I know, like you said, going to the same job every day can be fun and blah blah. I get you, but there's people that it can be monotonous. And I think having that jump and that freedom to go from job to job, and having someone else covering for you, and your boss is with you evenly, level wise. Like if someone's sweeping and I need to sweep or grab a trash barrel, we're all in it together.
Right.
So I think having that is
I agree with that. I don't agree with the fact that like people like bouncing around, because at least from my feedback, everyone that anytime that we're bouncing around, and every single person that has worked for me has always come to me and said, I just want to work on one job. I want to start. I would love to be at a job from start to very finish, because it's, and I think part of that,
And they don't get to say that because they're not the owner, because they've never done
yeah,
it.
well,
So
of
that's
course,
wishful thinking. My
of
kid would
course,
want to stay at home and be in a couch all day, buried in an iPad. Guess
Same.
what?
Same.
Guess what?
understood. And that's and frankly, and I have come to realize that I haven't always been the best communicator on that side, where it's like there's oftentimes I'm making these decisions and my guys have issues with them. And it's like, well, my immediate reaction is like, all right, well, I don't want to piss them off because I want them to stick around. But then I retract. I'm like, wait a second, like, I didn't make that decision because I wanted to put them in a position that they didn't like. I made that decision because it's the best decision for the company.
Because no, decision had to get made and no one stepped up to it. So guess what?
Sure. Right.
You made it.
Right.
If someone else wanted to step up, and instead of stepping up, this is what I can't stand, okay, is that people step up after a decision's made
100%.
instead of during the decision-making process.
Yeah, and that's super
And anyone can
frustrating
raise their
because-
hand at any given time.
Right. And Meg and I talk about it a lot, and it's like, and even recently, like owning the business and John, you brought it up to me a couple podcasts ago about when I mentioned New Hampshire and how you would have just kept that like a little secret.
Well, that was one of our save the podcast at the shop talk.
No, I thought we talked about it on the podcast.
No, I don't think we did. But yeah, I said,
well, either way, I posted something about a personal property of mine, and there was the discussion was around like how it's perceived by other people in the company, and it's similar mindset of like when someone doesn't agree with something I do or the vision of the company. Like I do think of that. I can't help but think of that. But at the same time, it's like, and I don't want to have to ever explain myself. No one should. But it's like, but the decisions that I make personally, or I buy another property or something like that, that's not attributed directly to just the success of my business or the fact that I own the business. It's like, it's attributed to multiple life decisions I've made. And,
Agreed.
and I think, and people don't realize that. And it's the same thing when I make a decision or you make a decision in your company for what's the best for your company, and one of your guys doesn't agree, and it's like, well, he's just doing what's best for him, or like, that's really frustrating for me because it's like you have no idea.
But it's agreed, they don't, and that's a problem, and it's tough to give them too much insight because then they think like chaos is stewing. But like,
right. It's like, actually, I'd love to show you the P&L and how you're totally fucking it up right now.
Yeah.
But
it's I go way back to when I was a carpenter, and there was a guy, Dave, on the crew, and every time we'd get to like an 80% completion on a project, whether it was a staircase, whatever, he would start panicking about where we're going next. And I would turn to my boss. I was like 18, 20 at the time, and I'd be like, hey, you need to have a sit down with Dave just to let him know where we're going next. I know I just always assumed there was work to go to. And I would watch how he'd freak out. He'd get antsy and be like, do I need to look for a new job because we're out of work? And Tom, our boss, would have work lined up, but he just wouldn't be telling everybody. There's no reason to. And that is what brought me into this kind of thought process of, hey, keeping people in the loop, is that, hey, this is what's going on. And I tell people like, hey, you want to get people paid? You don't make any effort at all to get the invoices in order to get them paid. Like we have PMs right now where it's like, hey, I told this joke the other day. It's like my tree guy calls me and goes, hey, I need $4,500 for that tree job we did over at this job. I'm like, sweet. All right, I'll drop over a check. And while I'm doing that, I drop the check off, and I text my guy, my PM. I go, hey, did we ever invoice for that upgrade for the tree removal? Oh, no, I'm on that. I go, guess what? So-and-so wanted to get paid. So-and-so got paid. Like, why not ask for the invoice? Why not get it into an invoice? We can't invoice a client without backup. So if we don't have the invoice, like, I know you want to get this sub paid, but you've made no motive. Like, it's exactly the same thing as decision making. You've put no effort forward to get that person paid.
Right.
But you want it to happen. That's great. That's amazing that you want it to happen. Someone has to facilitate it, get an invoice, get it into a QuickBooks invoice, get it off to a client with attached backup. It's the only way it works. So like in your head, you need this internal clock going every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, who hasn't billed?
Right.
Like, and I love that. I when I had all my guys off for a week and some was off for 2 weeks, I was back in that mojo. Like, all right, hey, before you end the week, give me an invoice because I'm going to be invoicing. You've been here for 2 weeks. You know, it's part of clockwork. So now I'm like, all right, how do I make a concerted effort to dial in that internal clock? No one talks about the internal clock. They talk about scheduling. They talk about quality. They talk about all the stuff, but it's really like, I don't need to be at that job until they start framing that dormer. When they're demoing it, as long as protection's down, I can check that on Builder-Trend. But as they start framing that thing, is it a balloon frame wall? How we're going to post down the king studs? Like, that's where I need to be. And I find that 90% of the time, the people that are running that job with me, like that with me, not for me, aren't there at that moment.
Right.
It's just, and I think I've come to the conclusion, I felt really good about it, is that I don't need them to be.
Do you think
I'm going to be there for those things because that's what I've devoted to my clients.
I mean, you want to be
100%. 100%.
I love like Tyler, like I love when John brings something up literally from like 18 months ago that you said.
Like
every time I talk to him, he brings it up. He's like, yeah, man, that was like, I took that as a major stab. Like, I didn't intend it to be a dig or a stab at all. Maybe I did. I don't even remember. It's so
like,
long ago.
I should have got stitches, but this wound is still wide open.
Oh yeah. I got a bloody nose still. It's still leaking.
I agree with John. I don't for my own, that's just the way that I operate. And obviously I'm the opposite end of the spectrum, but I do believe unless there's the experience and the engagement of somebody who's been there and done it before and gone through the paces, yeah, things will still get missed, but there's a lot of critical times where I just don't feel as though I can depend on somebody else for that. And that's a personal decision. That's a business decision. There's times where it's got to be me. And with me, it's obviously more times than not. And there's got to be a happy medium there. But I do believe that the trouble that you would have to go through, John, to get somebody to act, react, think the way that you want them to would be more trouble and more headache, more effort, and more money down the drain than just saying, I need to structure my business in a way that I can be there for those moments. And until you find, if somebody comes up, there's somebody who's been along for long enough that at some point they can take over the reins and you're ready to pass that off. I just don't see a reason for you trying to kind of, fit a square peg into a round hole. If that's what you want to do. And that's what, the expectations of your customer are that you're going to be there for those things and that those important critical times and situations in any build, you have that 100%, then just do that. Like you can find a way to structure your business to have the lifestyle that you want and that you're okay with, to be able to afford that and to afford your customers that. And, if that at some point that doesn't work or at some point you need a change, then go about making that change. But for me, in the meantime, like, you're in a good position. You're getting your ducks in a row, and that's just what's best for you right now. Then that's what's best for you right now.
What's funny is it like Matt Sargent, my architect, I only deal with Matt. Like, you get me? Maybe once in a while, if I need an engineering explanation, he'll send me to Chuck, one of his associates. My interior designers that we use, I only deal with the principal, and so does all my people. Like, it's like magic. Like, there's little minions that get it done for them. So it's like, And I'll have a meeting with Nikki, and she might have one of her design associates with her taking notes, but everything happens. It's controlled through these individuals. And it's like, well, I've done what Nick's done, where we're like, hey, in BGB, we put this whole binder together. I got one over here, and it had every division, everything bid out, and I'd then turn it over to a PM. I'll let them do a whole, deep dive, debrief on budget, that they'd accept all these things. But then it would be irrelevant. I'm holding them accountable for a budget that they looked at for 3 days, that they probably looked at for 35 minutes before the meeting to accept it. And because I had been on that end of it. And it's like, all right, so when I was a director of operations, so at that BGB, I did business development. So I'd find the jobs, write the budgets, did the pre-con, and then I'd turn it over and I did director of operations. I love that entire scenario because I got to win the job, obviously award the job to people in a management. And then I stayed in that meeting, like almost like Craddock, where every week be at that meeting, and every day I told my PMs back then, it's like, the less you see me, the better you're doing. The more you see me, the more we're fucked, because I have to be there every day. There's something happening that's not happening. And it's like, I should have realized it then that was the moment, but I was running someone else's company. Mm-hmm. And it's like, all right, so if I do this now, like we just got 2 amazing jobs, and I'm like, I don't want to give those up, but B, I think it's the only way to make these products successful is having, like, every day I'm on site, and it's like, if we're doing 3 projects, that's perfect.
But what about sales? What about business development? What about,
I don't have a machine to feed. If those 2 products are 2 years and the other one's 14 months, like these ones came in the door
2 years, but you ideally you're going to want, like, you need to be selling. You can't stop sales. You need to be selling. So in 12 months time, you get another one of those jobs, so you can then enter those into pre-construction.
Yeah. But why can't I do, like, right now, I was able to land those jobs while I was running these. And then a year and a half down the line, those jobs will feed from word of mouth, like these have. These are all word of mouths. Mm-hmm. That these will then, if it goes in the cycle it's been going, it will present itself. Mm-hmm. But so, me doing pre-con for 2 years isn't going to work.
What's that?
Me doing pre-con on a job for 2 years just to hang on to that job. Some of the best jobs we got, I didn't have to do any pre-con for. Met them, hand me the keys. Honestly, all of them.
Yeah, but the pre-con isn't getting them to buy into you. The pre-con is setting the project up for success. And I'm not saying that you can't set a job up for success without that. It just, that's what that time is used for, is to work through all the details and get all of this stuff. And I know, like, you and I have, we certainly have different opinions on all of the planning and preparation and all the pre-construction and doing all of this before we start construction. But that, for me, that's where I think about it. It's like, I want to be doing less work, and boutique is a great, it's a great word for it, in the sense that I would like to be doing 4 to 6 projects at a time, large scale projects where I can have a super on each of those jobs, and I have the opportunity where I can spend, my week stopping in all those jobs, having time to spend a significant amount of time, not all day, not every single day, but a significant amount of time on every one of those jobs, be a part of the important meetings. But on the business side, I'm still doing business development, I'm still doing marketing, I'm working on, my other, like, any other business ventures, and I'm also working on sales.
Yeah, but at some point, are you chasing money? Are you chasing projects? What is it? What are you in it for? Because I'm in it for the construction. Like, I love, like I just said to you before the pod started, is like, I'm on the call texting with the architect to verify these heights, and he's like, what do you think we do this glass wall? I'm like, I love that. And
that's my favorite part of construction is working through that.
But then we can't just turn it over to people to make it happen when it's probably over their head. And if I had them sign off on a budget and a sign off on drawings. But I feel like, how much time do you spend on pre-con right now and awarding these jobs, getting these jobs, versus you being on site? Actually, like you just said, hey, I'll be in these jobs. Dude, if I have to be on that job for the next 3 days because it's a critical point, then guess what? I have to be, and I can now shift my PM over to another job.
Understood,
to make sure that one doesn't lose any traction.
But you're saying
I don't want to be like going after the president. I don't understand how presidents get to just stop doing their regular job and then run for president. Like, I have to keep my original job.
But John, like, I agree with you. Like, if I have to be on a job for the next 3 days because it's critical, yes, my schedule adheres to that. But I don't. And no part of me thinks that I need to be on every single job every single day.
But do you?
With that being said, I don't. I also don't think that I need to be.
Do you want to?
Do I want to be on every single job every single day?
Like what? Like isn't it? Well, if you could.
I mean, yes. I think that yes, that is the most fun part of the job. However, there is a big part of me that it's gratifying to see our team take the reins and run with it. And if I can be checking in multiple times a week, like not every day, all day, like I can be part of all of those critical meetings. I can be on a text chain with the architect. I can be part of all of that, but that doesn't mean that I need to be on every job every day. And, I just think.
Then why take the job on?
What do you mean why take? Because there's still so much fun about that. There's so many other. What?
But like, think about like going back when we were carpenters. Would you take it on to have your carpenter's assistant or apprentice see how they work on that job? You wouldn't take a job on just to put manpower there, right? It's because we wanted to create
today.
Something. Yeah, no, like when we were carpenters, like when we were actually built on, we took a job on because A, we wanted to make money, and B, we wanted to create something for a family. That's the essence of it, correct?
Yes. And
so
I think
how do we not lose that is my point. Is that that's all I want to do. It's just so if before I couldn't do it because you're building a company and you're kind of scrambling because you're taking work on that fits the criteria, but the criteria is wide open. So as you grow as a company, you're supposed to, I'm bringing my arms in to make a funnel, is to funnel it down to what it is that you actually want within the team that you have and the trades you have, the skill. And it's like, all right, like you've gone from doing decks and wainscoting to doing, brownstones and amazing fit outs to now doing custom stuff and now it's shaping into more modern. It's like, dude, slow down. Like, what is it that you want to do? Maybe things aren't a success because there's always a moving target. It's like, I just want, now I see it clearly, like having the conversation with Brad last week and him going, like, I get it. He saw that I shouldn't be doing that because maybe I love that he goes on vacation, but at the same point, I love the job. Like when my wife asked me, like, when do you think you'll ever retire? I probably never will. I'd rather have a team that runs it, and I still am dedicated to a project that I love because they've like architects. Like we're dealing with an architect right now who's award winning. He's on every single call. He's on every single thing. And I'm like, all right, yo, it only, every time I keep saying this, it reinforces what's happening and that I am doing it wrong. Thinking I could turn it over to my PM and he can have these meetings.
See, that's the you just said something that I think is wrong.
Lay it on me.
It's not wrong that you're not doing something wrong just
for
because
me,
for me, to you, that's it's an opinion, but it's I think wrong is the incorrect word to use because it's not like you just want to.
I mean, it's wrong for you. It doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong for everyone.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
But it doesn't. I don't.
I'm not saying it's wrong for you guys.
No, I mean it's and that's I guess what I was kind of getting at before, that if you found the path that you understand is the right path for you right now, you just have to structure your business around that and like structure your life around that and ride that out and see what happens. And if that's where you want to be, that's where you want to be. If you feel like you can kind of tweak things at that point, tweak things. But I don't disagree with you at all. And I understand that there's people that can structure businesses in a way that they can step away from it, They don't need to be hands-on. I don't understand how you do that in residential construction with there's so many human interactions and there's so many personalities involved and there's so many discrepancies and decisions that need to be made, and every single situation is a unique circumstance and situation, and I don't understand how you could step back and just let things roll in what we do for a living. If it comes down to, if you have a cabinet shop where there's roles and responsibilities where you can, you're all you do is sand. You have one guy who you've taught how to, or girl who you've taught how to sand, and you have somebody who spray finishes. And maybe you need to step in when there's a specialty finish or when you're trying to match something, but there's a limited amount of decisions that need to be made. There's not as much artistic freedom once the design's on the table. And it's a controlled operation where there's a start and a finish, that everything's, in a controlled environment, and you get wood that's square. And obviously, there is more that goes into it. I'm simplifying it. But that to me seems like a business that you could scale and you could pull back from some when it's like a manageable operation. When you get into building a home or a space for somebody, and now you have a designer, an architect, two customers, a builder, all of the subcontractors, there's just so many people involved, and it's nothing is what it appears on paper. There's always a judgment call to be made. There's always a decision that needs to be made that's going to impact infinite amount of things down the road. And that's why I do believe it's very hard to scale a business in residential remodeling or home construction where the details are critical to you, because they're just going to get overlooked with that many people involved. And unless you plant yourself there, or you have your eyes on that job, or you just take on a small amount of work that you can oversee all of those things, it's going to be, for me, I don't know how you do it. And that's not to say that people can't. It's just I'd be chasing my tail.
100%. I think, in our last company, Benny and Mike, the three of us were like the three amigos. Like, Mike wouldn't go too far and say, hey, step beyond his boundaries and go, yeah, go ahead, do it this. He would just raise his hand and make a call, shoot you a text and shoot you a photo. That's all we needed. Like, there was times where we had to finish 2 Southgate because we landed on my birthday, finishing out. I was on the first floor, Benny was on the second floor, and Mike was basement and outside. That's how we covered the closeout of that project. That we all wanted to be there. And I think with with skilled trades being less and less, I think you need to have more eyeballs on the site. And I think, Nick, tell me this: the things you've seen that need to be corrected, and you're saying pre-con would have helped this and having more involvement in people's, in what's happening on the project. Do you think if you weren't spread out between pre-con and all the other things that you're doing, and if you were able to be on site more to catch those things, would that have been a benefit
Yes.
instead of having those individuals in pre-con more? Because now you're pulling them away from an active job site.
No, I think that it would certainly have helped, but I don't think it's instead of. I think it's both. I think that,
So who covers the job site when now they're in pre-con for this new job that hasn't started yet?
well, you have a full-time super on that job all day, every day. Like you said, there's times where that super doesn't need to be there. So the super's involvement with pre-con will be limited. It's primarily the project manager. So the project manager is overseeing 2 jobs, and then the remaining, like, basically broken up 40% on a job, 40% on another job, 20% is dedicated to pre-construction for another project coming up. So that's how we've kind of outlined it as from a time management standpoint. So that there's always supervision on the job site. The times that we can peel a super off because the job is buzzing and we don't need, we don't necessarily need someone there. Yeah, we might pull that super in the office and, hey, we got this project coming up in 3 months. I just want to sit down and just kind of review schedule with you. Or, hey, I'm going to meet you out on your job site. I'd love to grab 4 hours with you and just kind of chat about schedule. That's, it's the super for us, and why we decided to separate it, because it's always been like a PM/super, is that super is on site managing production and managing quality control. And it's like, with your point about me being on site more, yes, that's absolutely something that we've talked about, and is part of the restructure, is that we don't want to be doing 20 small projects. We want to be doing 4 larger projects, so then I can spend more time on the job site, because a lot of the things that we rip out or redo are because I get on site and I look at it and I say,
Get on site too late.
yeah, and I'm like, that's, that flies, like it hits, the client's fine with it, but it's usually something I'm like, we gotta redo that. And
But
that's
you
just
don't think that this screams being there more often?
it does, 100%.
I just
I'm
don't.
not saying,
I feel like you're arguing a point that
I'm not arguing it. I agree
kinda
with
are.
you. I agree that you should be on site more. I agree that I should be on site more. But what I'm saying is that I certainly don't need to be on site all day every day. I agree with the fact that I should be involved and on site more, especially because of my expectations with things, or just the creativity side of, like, when I get
So
on site.
like having them in pre-con, unless the architect's capturing your creativeness.
These are two different things that
No,
we're
but they're
addressing.
the same.
They're not the same.
Don't fucking do this. You're saying that the way you're making changes on the job site is because your creativeness and how you're going to execute this, that will never change, Nick, unless you capture that in pre-con, in the drawings. Like Steve Teak, if you guys do this whole thing in pre-con and you don't capture these little moments, guess what? 12 months from now, we're having the exact same conversation. Doesn't matter that you put 70 hours with your PM in pre-con with you.
But
because you're still going to be creative.
We're talking about different things.
Okay. I'm an idiot.
You're not. You're not an idiot. You're
because
I'm agreeing with a lot of what you're saying, and I think you're failing.
But you're saying that you're doing all this stuff to change
Tyler's
it. But
literally just like listening to us argue.
I look at it
I'm
like,
not saying that. What I'm saying is that the PM is involved to make sure that from a business standpoint, this job is set up for success. A business standpoint, not a creativity standpoint, a business. That means on time and on budget. I can't be the only person that is sitting down and outlining a schedule and getting the budget to where it needs to be, because my attention can't be dedicated to that one job all day and every day.
Now I feel like the idiot in me is going, now we're talking about two different things.
But this is what I'm talking about. The PM, the project manager, that's what he's set up for. He is set up to make sure that the project is a success. He's managing the success of that project. And bringing the super involved.
How does the success of that? I feel like the success of that, yeah, obviously it's budget and quality, but it's the experience with the client. So how does that jive?
Sure, the experience. So
that client's going to do a $4 million job with you.
Yeah,
$4 million job with Nick from NS Builders.
Yeah, I'm going to be involved all the way through.
And then you kick it over to the PM.
I'm not kicking it over.
The day-to-day communication
with the project. I'm not kicking it over. He's now involved with the project. He is communicating. Absolutely. He's running the meetings. He's making sure that the weekly updates go out. He's making sure that the super is doing the daily logs. He's making sure the budget's updated, their schedule. Yeah, he's the communication tool. But I'm still involved. I'm still in those meetings. I'm still walking the job site. I'm still part of the email chain. I might chime in. I'm not handing it off to him. I'm involving that PM.
If both of you could run fewer jobs and make comparable money, would you do it?
Yes.
Yes.
Like if you could run 3 jobs, Nick, rather than 6, a year if you could run 3 rather than 6 and make roughly the same amount of money, by reducing overhead and becoming more efficient, would you do it? Or do you want to be doing 6 jobs at a time?
It's not necessarily I want to be doing 6 jobs at a time. It's that, and I'm just gonna say, and I don't want to come off as though I'm greedy or money driven, but there's definitely a part of me that is money driven. There's no doubt about that. I think that's evident, and there's
Well, it's kind of in between the lines, because that's why I asked you before. Is it about chasing paper?
but it's not like, and I think that it's unfair to say, are you doing it for the craft, or are you doing it for the money? Because I think that you can be doing it for both. And and in my opinion, I'm doing it for both.
People will listen and say it has to be about money because we're trying to make a living.
Of course, like there's always a living. So Tyler, the way I took that question is that if you could be doing less jobs and support your lifestyle as it is today, would you do it? And the reason I didn't answer that right away, yes, because my lifestyle right now isn't where I want to tap out. I want continued financial growth. I want to build wealth, like all of those things. So if that means I have to go from three jobs to 6 jobs, then yeah, I'm probably going to go for 6 jobs. But you're saying,
I guess where I'm kind of coming from is that I would imagine that you are established enough and you've marketed yourself well enough at this point that you could be doing 3 jobs a year, reduce your overhead, streamline your business.
I would agree with
and
that.
your
I think
profit margins would go way up. You'd be able to invest more money, have more money in your bank account, invest more money, potential other business opportunities, make money elsewhere, focus efforts elsewhere, and still come out ahead rather than like trying to sort out everything that you have going on with as much going on as there is right now. And that's the same thing for John. Like I would say you guys are at the point where you should be having customers coming to you saying, "Hey, this job is yours. How are we going to do it?" And then basically you're not calling your price, but now you know the way that your business runs, you know where you want your profit margins to be. You can lay that all out there and say, "I need to make this amount. This is how long this job is going to take us," and know what's coming in, what's going out, and reducing the amount of headache and mistakes and everything else, and still be very profitable and not have to take on the amount of jobs that you are, which is kind of complicating things.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I would also say that that is the pivoting moment that we're in the business right now. Is that
I feel like if you got a $5 million build, Nick, I wouldn't do fucking anything else but that $5 million build, because you got to put every effort into it to make it a success. Like just to Tyler's point, the last 2 out of 3 contracts I signed, I have no complete drawings. I'm doing no pre-con for it. It's just a flat fee plus management. So whatever they think up.
But you're.
So I'm not
correct
at
me
risk.
if I'm wrong, but you're about to do one. You might have a contract for the biggest job that you've ever done.
Correct.
But you're still talking about doing 3
I'm
others.
No, but that's 2 others, and that's it.
2 others.
So I'm now pulling way back instead of doing 7 products at a time.
But I'm doing the same thing.
Streamlining it down.
I'm going from 20 projects down to 4 or 5, maybe 6.
What are you talking about?
I guess I just look at it from
five.
And the way that I look at things is obviously it's not right. It's not wrong. It's just the way that my personality and my business operates. But I just feel like you guys have afforded yourself the luxury at this point to structure your business and your lifestyles around what you want to be doing and how much of that you want to be doing.
Correct.
You have to be sought after at this point, Nick. You have to have people drooling over wanting to work with you. And I just feel as though you should be in the position to say, this is what the price is. This is what we charge. If you want to move ahead with it, sure, let's figure this out. And if not, like, and be expensive, like you said, but that what your price point should be for your experience and for the amount of effort that you're putting into it and the amount of hours, that you're spending above and beyond what a normal person is. Like, that
Totally agree.
increase in price should be for you. It shouldn't be for anything else. And I feel like if you structured your business around that, kind of like, hey, this is where I want to be, let me structure my business around this, I think that you would end up being more profitable than you realize.
I, I agree.
Like, I would take one of your jobs and just be like, peace, see ya. I'll hire a couple people, pay them a top rate, and be like, I'm set for the year. Like, I literally don't need to do anything else right now.
and that's, I mean, that is a serious talk that we have internally. You know, I sit down with some of my guys and we talk
I thought
about
he was gonna
that.
say the voices in his head.
Well, I talk to
I
them
sit down
too.
with my voices and we just
Usually at 5 in the morning, or 3:30 since Indy's waking up at 3:30 now. Um, but it's something I do consider is like, all right, well, what if we did one job at a time or two jobs at a time? But it's not. It just doesn't. That's just not what I to go back like what John said. It's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to be doing. I want to be doing 4 jobs at a time and have the structured team that I had mentioned because
but when that
in my
shiny object comes by you and they say, hey, you have the opportunity to bid a $21 million job,
I'm going
how
for
do
it.
you say no?
I wouldn't.
How do you not put the 4 products and the 4 clients in jeopardy to chase the next shiny object?
Because and that's why I think it's so important to have a team that you can rely on.
You should be the mayor
I
because you didn't answer me. You just
How would I mean, if I was in a position, someone said, "Hey, we got a $21 million job,
like,
super
but
modern house,
does
right in the
that amazing moment just immediately dissipate as soon as you sign the contract? That
No,
now you're looking for the next one. Like I said, I'm doing these products, and you're like, what about pre-con? I'm like, I'm not in love with pre-con, dude. I'm in love with the client. I want to have that experience
I
with
hate
them.
pre-con. Well, I should say I hate pre-con. Pre-con is my least favorite part of the process. But I find value in it, so that's why we invest in it. I I I don't think that I have to believe that the client wouldn't the 4 clients wouldn't suffer because it's not a matter of 5 million or 21 million. It's a matter of the fact that it's okay, this is another job. Yeah, a $21 million job is something I don't even know what it looks like right now.
Yeah, but my point is like, don't you feel like we talked about it? One of the projects we have, they don't want to put any signage out front, and
Yeah,
she's like, it's because you guys need to. We've gotten to this honeymoon stage, but you
mhm.
guys haven't earned the reputation with us yet.
Sure.
So why should you put your sign out front and
That's fair.
take advantage of that? I love it. And it's like, but at the same point, it's like they're right. Like, you know, I should be devoted 100%. And I know you think it's crazy is to these people for the next 2 years, if that's what it takes. And like, I haven't even got the personnel and how, because we don't have any drawings. Like she sent me a text earlier. It's like, can you lay out how we want to do selections? And she wrote in quotes, I know we don't even have drawings yet.
Mm.
Like just so we prepare for how we can kind of work this. But it's like, I want to do that. And I think the brand that we create, if we're going to have anything, we should be able to stand on that brand and know that in a year and a half, 2 years, the right project will come along.
Yeah.
So I don't have to keep vetting this and going through it. I am in the build for the next 2 years
Mm-hmm.
with my team. Like my team over 3 products will have 2 PMs and 2 supers over 3 projects. And
Yeah.
that's the team we're going to have to do. And I'm like, I love it. It just means I have to say no to everything else.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know. I'm gonna say something, and I know like it. I giggle like I am patient in a lot of ways, and I understand a lot of this stuff takes time. But in a lot of ways, in my decision making in business and life, I am impatient in the sense that you know I do thoroughly believe like we're not here for a guaranteed time. We're only here for a short time. Like I understand I'm young. I understand I have a whole career potentially ahead of me. But at the same time, it's like I'm not going to base the decision on whether or not I'm going to explore an opportunity that might be outside my comfort zone of $21 million because I haven't earned that yet. I'm going to go and try to earn that in the moment because that could be the only time I'm ever presented with that.
But that's a false statement. If you execute the next 4 builds, the only thing left.
You're not guaranteed.
If you execute those, you absolutely are. Because the clientele that you're with, that you're dancing with right now.
Until I get hit by a bus.
Yeah, then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Then it wasn't your time, bro.
Sure. But that's
so you're willing to give up the 4 other projects,
not giving them
for
up.
the next one.
No, I wouldn't give it up.
Do you think that maybe how about we substitute pre-con for patience?
Okay.
And say, if we had more patience and we devoted more time to patience and the execution of these next 4 builds and creating the systems around those, it would be more beneficial.
Let me
Do you know what would be much easier to scale rather than like a GC company?
Anything?
Maybe I'll rub people the wrong way. I don't mean anything badly by it, but I'm listening to like our conversation and trying to manage all these moving parts. And it's like, if you were a specialty contractor, right? And you wanted to scale either painting or flooring or tile work where you're just performing one trade. And that's not to discount that these people don't have a lot going on with those trades. But to me, it does seem like it would be easier to scale something like that and have, be able to step back from that as a business owner more so than being able to step back as a business owner in either one of, your 2 or my position.
I agree with that. I wanted to add something to that the previous side. I want to make it abundantly clear that if I was presented with a $21 million project and they said, but you have to start immediately on this, and I have 4 other jobs, I would certainly not say yes to that. I guess what I'm getting at is
22 million?
21.5.
My point is that like I think what you're getting at is like I would absolutely not sacrifice my devotion to who is my current client, as I don't now, for just because there's a new shiny object in front of me. If someone said, "Hey, we have this $21 million project. I know you got a lot going on. We'd love to start right away." I would need to make a conscious decision and understand, like, all right, could I actually do that? Could I hire the right people? Have I been interviewing people that I know could run a project like that?
But aren't those all the answers are no? Like, to me, it's like, I don't want to have to hire anybody. I don't want to ramp up for anything. I want to be able to stage it so it fits in within my team.
And right now, I don't I want to hire a few people and get to where I'm comfortable. And say I'm comfortable. I'm still going to be talking to people. I talk to people on a regular basis, whether or not I'm actively hiring or not. But it's like, if I was presented with an opportunity, yeah, I'm going to consider what it would take to do that. It's like, I have an opportunity to build something out of state, another state. It's like, I'm still going to explore that opportunity, even though I'm not prepared to do that today, next month, 6 months from now. But it's like, it's a project that's 18 months out. It's like, and part of what I want to do is to be able to build out of state. So it's like, yeah,
Why?
I don't know. I just do. There's like, because I don't want to be geographically bound.
What do you think the clients that are currently working with you would say when they hear that? When they be like, dude, can you just get to my job more?
Maybe.
That's what goes through my head. It's like, I would love to,
but
I'd love to do a lot of things. It's just, I know my limitations.
That's why I'm excited. I was able to get in touch with Jim Dow's assistant, and she's scheduling it, because I'm enamored by what he's built. He's building for like Ulsan Kundeg houses, like in like super architecturally distinct homes all across the country. And I think it's super interesting. And to have your name as the builder against some of these, like, literally world's most extraordinary homes, that's awesome. And that is what I like. That I would love to do that.
Is he 22? How old is he?
How old is he? I'm not 22.
No, I'm just saying though. Is he young?
He is not young.
How old is he?
I don't know.
Give me a range.
50s.
Oh, so it took a little time.
It did.
Oh, I can't wait to talk to him.
Me too. Because I'm sure it didn't happen when
I'm sure he had patience. It was like, you know what?
I have patience, but I'm not going to sacrifice opportunity because I don't think that, it's just not my time yet.
But maybe that is what it leads to some of the mistakes.
Sure.
That is
But I've
stopping you from
accepted that.
affording those other marketing deals or those
I've
other
accepted
things
that.
that can. Well, the way you answered Tyler's question about dwindling down to 3 products or whatever it was, you're like, I'd rather do 6 because of this. It's like, I don't know. I look at it the same way. It's like maybe I shouldn't be on IG or I shouldn't be at this podcast because I need to get 4 invoices done.
Sure.
I battle with that on a daily basis, and
But it's like, but these are what we do. Like, you have to prioritize what is important to you before you prioritize what's important to the business.
But the
And
business is what creates a lifestyle that gives me the ability to enjoy my life.
sure it does, but me waking up and working out and eating breakfast sets me up for a better day.
For you.
Where, for me.
Yeah. I'd
So
rather not
yeah,
go to bed at 8.
huh?
I'd rather not go to bed at 8.
I go to bed at 11.
Yeah.
It's like, but that's
You
it's just
probably nap. Do you nap
Huh?
during the day? Do
I
you
don't
nap?
nap.
You probably nap.
I don't nap. I mean, I probably go to bed between 10 and 11.
You grab like a melatonin
No,
midday.
absolutely not.
The hell's a
Hmm.
melatonin?
Melatonin just puts you to sleep.
No, I mean,
Grab a
I
gummy.
feel
Oh,
like that
yeah,
could be.
yeah.
I had a conversation the other day about this, and I feel like it could be a whole podcast about. But like,
Oh,
I'm
what are you sheltering us? Am I not ready for it?
not ready for it. No, I think for me, early on, I promoted working like hundreds of hours, 100 hours, whatever, a week, and and I do think that there's a time for that, but I definitely got to a point in my life, i.e., having kids, that I realized that they take priority, and then I got to another point where I was like, I take priority because I don't want to be 50, 60 years old and absolutely dead, like dead tired from working, round the clock, being constantly stressed out, not taking care of my health, not doing the things that were right by me. Where it's like, all right, well, now it's it sounds stupid, but it's like the whole like biohacking. Like, how do you biohack yourself in the sense that you can do more, you're more productive, you're more alert, you can wake up early, and for me, it's right now it's like this focus around like diet and exercise. And I think that having good diet and exercise and regimen and being committed to doing certain things before I jump into work allows me that opportunity to actually approach work in a better manner, in a more productive manner. Why are we talking about this?
Do you think that, and this is not directed at anyone, um, like there's easier ways to make money, right, than what we do?
Yeah, and that's why and 1,000%, and that's why I don't think that I'm in this for the money. I think it's a very much 50-50 where it's like, yes, there are so many other things that would lead to more wealth and more money.
Yeah, I mean, I think of it in, even like the most logical path for me if I wanted to be able to expand how much I'm making and not necessarily expand my business would be to acquire rental properties. It's still like there's somewhat of a crossover there. Um, most of the work, you have a network of people who be able to perform the work on the home. A lot of the maintenance stuff you could hire somebody for, take care of yourself. And as far as, looking for retirement and a means to an end, it would be more lucrative than what I can make basically charging hourly work for myself and, one employee. And I think the same for you guys too. It's like anyone that we talk to on the podcast who wants a bigger company because they want to make more money and they need more money or need financial freedom. And it's like, why not streamline your business and make your business as efficient as possible. and then as profitable as possible, and then use that money to be able to make some money elsewhere.
Yeah.
So now, you're maximizing your profit within your business, you're minimizing the amount of mistakes, and now that money can generate you income elsewhere, even if it's just going into the stock market rather than like the growing pains of trying to sort out how to be in a place where you think you want to be, and it's costing you how much money to do that, and maybe you get there and it's like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be anyway. It's like, for me, I think of it oftentimes like that, where if I can make X amount and I can put this much away, then I don't necessarily have to worry about my career and what I'm doing serving me for my retirement.
Mhm.
That the money can generate elsewhere. And rather than bring in twice as much in sales and increasing my overhead and working and having more, and like you said, Nick, with the mental health or killing yourself at 50 years old and being exhausted, I can kind of, reduce my overhead, be as lean as possible. And at the end of the day, between what money goes into savings and interest I make on that, or if I put it into a rental property, I'm like still ahead, and I'm not bringing the burden of running this massive company onto myself. And then, like, even at that point, it just seems like growth can be more organic, and you can kind of figure out where you're meant to be and navigate that route without feeling as though, my ass is on fire because, like, I got to keep things moving. I have this coming up. I need to land this job. I don't think that we're in the business that's going to get us rich enough, um, and that we're going to be able to kind of
I
find the secret, like, link that's going to open up, or the key that's going to open up this door, and all of a sudden we're going to have financial freedom in the residential construction market.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I agree with that a lot, and that's where it's, I don't want I guess that's where I'm going with the fact that I want the ability to have people in place, so I'm not required to be on site every day. Though I want to be, though I want to be on a job site and being involved with all of those key parts because that's what I genuinely enjoy. And if I was only doing what I shouldn't say that. Yeah, if I was only doing what I genuinely enjoy, I would also have to understand that I have a limited capacity at what financial freedom may or may not look like. But it's like, you know, there's going to be and not that I don't I guess to clarify that, not that I don't enjoy the other things because I actually like I thoroughly enjoy building the business and the business development side and networking and doing the media stuff. Like I genuinely enjoy that, but that's not my number one spot passion. They might be a close second and third, but it's I see opportunity there to allow me to then come back to my number one and have more runway to be more creative, because of the number twos and the number threes of
Well, I think I wonder what's more creative for you, the actual product or building the company to show how creative it's grown. And that's
build the
because I mean we
product. I'm obsessed with the product. It's like that is by far number one. Like every project that we do, I obsess over it, and it's like all the micro details, and that's what I love about building a company and building like the media side of it. Is like I want to showcase it. I want to show everything that we do and dig into the little details and show it off and show off what my team has done or what I designed or Ken or Mike or someone came up with. Like I'm obsessed with that because that's what, then in turn sets us apart as to how we approach a job. It's like no stone left unturned. Like we're going into that and like almost immediately trying to figure out, all right, what can we do to change this up? What can we do to be more creative? Like how can we approach this differently? And that is genuinely what I
and you
enjoy
do
the
that
most.
during pre-con, or is that
It's
actively?
throughout. There's a lot of it done in pre-con. Again, the pre-con is there to set the job up for success financially and from a business standpoint. The creativity doesn't stop. The creativity is definitely out and about during pre-con. digging into different, like we're going through a design right now for a small millwork job. And it's like, you sit down with Ken, I sat down with Ken right before the podcast, and we're going through things, and, we're thinking about like, all right, I feel like we're just not there with the being creative. So we started thinking outside the box and brought up a few ideas to the table and started sketching them up. It's like, all right, cool. This now makes this way better. This puts it back in the realm of an NS Builders project. And that's during pre-con. But there's no doubt that we're going to be on site installing that millwork and then coming across something saying, man, if that soffit was just kicked back a half inch, it would create that real cool shadow line. Let's do that. Let's pause that upper cabinet from going in, and let's call Colby and see if we can get out here to push that soffit back. And that's never going to change. But that's what people like. It's my job as the salesman in this situation to sell to the client that we like. That's who we are. We're going to bring all of the creativity to it, and that's why people are hiring us, is because we are. We're not just accepting what is designed, despite how long it's been designed. We're making sure that we're bringing, everything.
So they're going to pay for a design, like Uber's amounts of money, just to throw it away for a tweak.
But it's not thrown away.
But I've had clients that know that they've spent X amount of money, and to change that design, I get we can slowly improve it, but I feel like the whole point of pre-con is to be able to, throw everything on the table.
Sure. And I think in the projects that we've done more pre-con, a lot of that creativity is figured out before we step on site. But we're not talking about like the pre-con and the architecture and interior design. All of that is enormously important because that's what gets us to the goal. We're talking micro changes that we're paying attention to in the field. They're not macro changes where it's, you're throwing out a design. It's, something that didn't get communicated on paper, or something that showed up on site that's just a little bit different, or it's, I don't know, it's you install the door and realize across the room the window is a half inch lower, so you kick that window up a half inch so they're aligned with each other. It's like those are like micro things, and we're not throwing the design away.
I sometimes think with what you do, Nick, you'd actually be better just like resolving yourself to sorting that stuff out in the field, because I feel like that's where you thrive.
I'd high five you, Tyler, but we're on a podcast.
But I do like I think that like what separates what you do from 99.9% of other people are those tiny little tweaks where it's like a half inch in the field, where that stuff is so hard to sort out on paper. And you also have a way of doing that where it's like, if it does cost you money, you're still going to do it. And, because that's going to make or break that job for you. And maybe the customer doesn't even understand the full capacity of that decision, but you do go ahead and do that. And like, that's what I feel like customers should be coming to you for, that they understand, while every detail may not be sorted out, that you have their best interest at hand, and that as that project's, coming to fruition, those tiny little details aren't going to be, well, it's already in place, just keep moving ahead, nothing we can do about it now, because that you're the one who's going to go back and change things, or spend the extra time making those little adjustments to bring it from, a 9 to a 10. And that's what I would look to be like when you're trying to structure your business and kind of see where you fit within these projects and these customers. That's what you bring to the table outside looking in. And the value that you bring to any job would be that you have the ability to go on site and take a job that's in the middle of construction and make a small change that has such a massive impact.
But I think a lot, like I feel like I'm doing that also during design. I'm sitting in these meetings with the architects, and oftentimes, I've said this before, is I think architects design with what they think people can build, not what they actually want to be doing,
I agree, and I think that what you don't realize is that that's specifically what you bring to the table. It's
right?
not what everyone that's not something you're gonna teach somebody or you're gonna find somebody. So that's
I
like
But that's where I'm not looking to give that up.
I know, but it's almost as if like
You can't do
that's what
both.
makes NS builders NS builders. And that's where you need to prioritize what you're doing to ensure that that's what you're, that's the value that you're bringing any build. If it's between you and somebody else, it shouldn't necessarily even be coming down to what your percentage is or what your management is.
Mhm,
You position yourself to have these customers who come to you who like they want your mind on that job. And while you may be doing that at pre-construction, maybe you're backing off or pulling off on the job. And I think that that's such a strong suit for you, and that's such differentiate a differentiator, is that a word? um
Sure,
for
why not?
you, right? That like that's a selling point. And whether that's at pre-con or during the job, that's something that going through all of this and listening to this conversation, that I want to ensure whatever you do with your business, whatever direction you take it, that you're not losing sight of that, because that's also what makes you happy. And while you have the goals for financial freedom and for 10 years down the road, and that a job may come up, you also have to remember, like you said, what if you get hit by a bus? So you do have to somewhat live in the moment now and ensure that what you're doing is fulfilling yourself now, because you don't always know how much time you have and what opportunities will present themselves. And if that's what
mhm.
truly makes you happy, it's like find a way to structure things so that you're bringing yourself happiness as well, not just formatting things so that everyone else is taken care of, and it's someday you're going to reap the benefit of that. Because I think that you put a lot of people before yourself all the time. um I mean, I see the way you do it even with the podcast and everything else, and handling scheduling and setting up the interviews and then the links out, hey, did we get this in? Like, that's just what you do. And sometimes, you need people to tell you, hey, don't forget about you and your needs and your wants sometimes, because I think that you don't realize the immense value that you bring to your company, because there's not going to be another one of you.
Mm.
And you're not going to get that. So just make sure that, you have your hands on that as much as you see fit and as much as makes you happy.
I mean, well, first off, thank you. That was like a really long compliment. I appreciate it. I mean, and I don't want it to be. I don't want this to be all about me. And unfortunately, I have to run to pick up my kids. But I think that can be said for all of us. Like everyone listening, Tyler, John. Like that's what it always comes down to, is that what makes sense for you. What value do you bring? And I think in you communicating that as you're saying it, it's like oftentimes people, I feel like when you talk to your business coach, or you talk to like, oh, what do you do? What makes you different? It's always one of those questions that's really hard to answer.
Hmm.
And it's like in the way you just answered that, in a lot of ways was like, all right, that is my thing. Is that that for us it's always about those micro moments in the field. And I don't disagree by any means that a lot of that gets resolved in the field, in those micro moments. The best part of it is it's in the field, and they're small moments that ultimately make a big difference. But at the same time, I think that I don't think pre-con is the answer to everything. But it's, for me, my experience in it is that a lot of those things are never, like, there's a lot of details or things that are never explored or even entertained for a project, because of the restrictions that someone might design within.
Yep.
Or and it's like, no, wait a second, like, what if you buried that window mullion into the floor system so it looked like the glass sat on the floor? It's like, well, we could do that, but it's going to be difficult to frame. It's like, no, we could do this, and it would be really easy to frame. Like those. And I'm using real life examples, but like those are moments where it's like we're making these micro changes that, at the end of the day, no one's ever going to know that was a decision sitting around a table or if it was a decision in the field, but it happened and it netted the result that it netted.
But that's what, the level of, in air quotes, NS that any project of yours is going to have. There's a direct correlation to your involvement with that project.
Right.
And
I don't want to give that up, and I have zero plan to give that up.
Yeah.
And maybe John, like maybe what you're saying is that, I get to a point where I spread myself too thin, and then I'm
You definitely spread yourself too thin, 110%.
But my point is that maybe what you're getting at is that I'm consciously not hitting the mark on those projects because I don't even realize it because, like you said, the shiny object in front of me, which is just so happens to be. I asked my business coach last week when we met, and I was like, "What's the one thing that you think that I'm doing wrong that could improve?" We were talking about something specific, and he looked at me on Zoom and he goes, oh, "Look at that shiny object over there." And I was like, "All right, that's fair. That's fair enough."
Well, I just think that right now, I think there might be a little bit too much value in pre-con for you. That it's not going to, I just hope that it solves what you think it's going to solve. I really do.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's actually going to happen. And then a year from now, you're going to be like, the reality of it is it's you can do as much planning as you want beforehand. It's when people see it real time, unless you simplify the design, which you're not going to do.
Right. But I don't way. Yeah. And in my last point, because I definitely have to leave. But I absolutely agree with that. And I don't want to come off as though I think that pre-con is going to solve all of the issues. I think that there's issues that it will resolve that we've dealt with in the past. But the only way to uphold what I'm setting out to build this company around is to remain involved, like you're saying.
All right, man. Go get the kids.
Cool.
All right.
Get out of here.
Peace, guys.
Later.
See you, dude.
I don't even know how to leave.
We got to get this over to Doug tonight.
Doug can log in.
Doug's getting married.
I thought he already got married. Am I wrong for that?
Maybe it got pushed off. I don't think he got married. I mean, I don't think he'd be getting married again this quickly.
No, I don't think so either. Renewing his vows after a year.
He got divorced and married again.
He's super happy.
No, so Doug's wedding is this weekend. Congratulations, Doug. The reason I asked, or I knew, was I knew in advance because Nick was like, "Is there somebody who has a food truck available for a small-ish wedding in Maine?" I was like, "Are you getting married?" He's like, "No, Doug." Who's Ann? Oh, that's the old one that just popped up. I just had like a message come up, but I guess it was an old one.
Yeah, I didn't delete the recordings from last week yet. They're still in the cloud.
Yeah, I didn't. I guess maybe I knew he wasn't married. I don't know. But congrats, Doug. I don't know his wife's name. Otherwise, I'd say congrats too. So Doug is formerly Puffin Media. Now he's Nick's production guy. All the digital content,
the amazing content,
and he does everything with our production for the podcast. We couldn't do it without him, and we usually put it off very last minute, so I feel like Doug has to deal with a lot of crap.
I think he did it Sunday at like 9 o'clock.
It's like every Sunday morning I'm like, oh man, we're making Doug work again on Sunday because somebody didn't get him what we needed, or somebody's audio didn't work, or we didn't upload something right.
It's usually me.
And then he like doesn't get an answer until some odd hour Saturday, Sunday night, and then still gets it done. So thanks, Doug. Have a good wedding. Hopefully you have some time off. I asked him if he was taking time off, but he didn't respond to me, which makes me question if Nick's giving him any time off. Nick's doing all the digital content for Doug's wedding, though.
Is he really? Switching gears?
I'm gonna do it for you now.
That's funny.
Poor Nick. Feel like Nick felt like he was getting grilled. I don't think any. I think it's all with love. I think that Nick sometimes doesn't understand the full capacity of his involvement within the company, and that his experience, whether he's young or not, and his expertise and his insight as far as the construction aspect and the design and the artistic liberties that he affords his customers, and everyone who works for him and his subs and everything else, like that's the differentiator, the made up word, for Nick. If I look where I had to sell Nick's services to a customer, if like I was going to sub a job out and Nick was going to be the sub that I was using, and I had to advocate for Nick and basically explain to a customer why we're going with Nick, even though Nick may be more expensive, would be exactly, like what he offers and what he brings to the table is different than anyone else. That, he will go basically to any length to make that job his and to nail it, to knock it out of the park, even if it costs him money, even if it costs him time. And he's never going to just settle on the design that's handed to him, always going to be looking to push the bar. And for the customers that want that, there's a price to be paid for that, and those customers would pay that 10 times over. And I think that sometimes Nick does lose sight of what he personally can bring to the table as far as construction goes, even though he's tool belt off at this point. He's removed himself from that, not so far from it, but he once was tool belt on and now he's tool belt off. And I think that he sometimes loses sight of how much value he can bring to his customers, and that, he's building this team, but a lot of the value of Nick's team is Nick. And he selflessly wants everyone else to get all the credit and wants everyone else to learn and wants everyone else to make money, and puts himself second a lot of times. And he needs to realize that, without him, it goes both ways. Without his employees, he's not much, and without him, they're not much. So he just needs to make sure that he's weighting himself and his time properly.
Which is tough,
It is, especially when you have goals, and he's obviously knows and understand that he's distractible as far as business and growth and what's on his plate, and he does have a lot going on, and it's tough to really gauge what's going on when there's so many balls up in the air, that he's handling as well as can be. But a lot of times I don't think that he understands the full capacity of what he brings to that company. I think he discounts it a lot because he doesn't have the tool belt on anymore, and his responsibility is sales and in that. But realistically, the reason that a lot of his jobs are as special as they are because of what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I just feel like you can find yourself feeding a machine before you know it, and you're actually not enjoying the job.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about. I mean, that's what I worry about for myself.
Yeah. I mean,
And I'm like a fraction of the size of him.
I think that's oftentimes why you guys end up having those conversations together, because you look at it, you're always, even though we had the podcast about not comparing yourself to others, but at the same time, you're going to compare yourself and your operations to people who you understand what they do, and you can, properly gauge yourself against those people. And you're going to gauge yourself against Nick. Nick's going to gauge himself against you, because you understand each other. You understand the volume of business. You understand the customers, the price point, the market. And I think that oftentimes you're looking at what you're doing and kind of comparing and gauging yourself, to what Nick's doing, and then questioning what Nick's doing, questioning what you're doing. And I kind of sit out of it where I'm like, I'm not on I'm not on the same playing field.
Yeah, but I think you definitely bring a different level of focus to the conversation, and it's definitely valuable.
Yeah, it's just different. And again, it's not right or wrong. I could definitely adopt a lot of what you do and a lot of what Nick do to make my life much easier, to probably make my business more profitable, um, and alleviate a lot of headaches. And I'm open to the conversation and to digging into that and why I do things the way I do. And I think that, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, I just try and structure my business around my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And if that's what works for me today, tomorrow, a year from now, I'm okay with that. And if, 5 years from now or 2 years from now, it's not working anymore, then I'll make an adjustment and I'll go from there. But I'm not going to worry about my entire life. There's more important things, and the everyone getting sick and COVID and health and people dying, and it's like, I don't know, worry about all that stuff for what? But maybe we should just live in the moment a little bit more rather than worrying about financial freedom that may never come in the first place. I'd rather be happy um, in the meantime.
I think that's key is like, how we judge success is really up to each individual person.
Hmm.
If I'm happy with my life, I think you're right. I think it does come around what I'm comfortable with. Like I love my house the way it is.
My God,
I,
there's
I,
like a troop of kids outside of my office right now just screaming.
it's not a bad thing. It's no, I just feel like I love my house. I would love to be able to offer my family a house that I build for my clients, but
Hmm.
I build houses for clients that aren't of the same stature of me.
They're not.
So it's really tough that's a really tough thing to kind of weigh on a daily basis is that I would love to be able to play in that wheelhouse. I get to live vicariously through them in the build, but we don't have the same bank account. So I live to a point and I do live to make my family happy. And I'm happy with that. Like I grew up in a really small house that we rented, and the fact that I own a house, I feel like it's already a win.
But
You know,
if you building yourself a house for your family that was of the caliber of the houses that you build for your customers was something you truly felt would bring happiness into your life, you would have already figured out what needs to be done to make that happen.
true. I do think as a caveat is that with starting a new company, some of that stuff personally has been put on hold for the betterment of the company. And I think at year 4 into 5, it becomes almost a nag that you're like, all right, this should be able to run itself. But at the same moment, I'm realizing what we started with was, a shotgun start that we ate a few projects to make it work because we had nothing, you
Yeah,
know, and then you want to make sure that you're not continuing that mistake. And it's been a struggle. It hasn't been easy. It looks easy on social, and I've done a lot less on social. But at the same point, I'm like, I wanna promote the jobs that we're doing, that I love them, and at the same moment, not everything is running perfectly, so I should be devoting time into the company and not into promoting it.
for
That's
sure.
why
But I
and
I
it
just think,
it's tough.
it also at the end of the day, your happiness, your family's well-being, what makes your kids and your wife happy, because it just can't be about you, is going to be your biggest priority. And if you ask your kids, hey, would you rather not see me for, until you're done college and or until you're done high school, but you can have a nice new house to live in? Maybe now they would say, yeah, cool. But I think if you ask them when they were 30 years old, 35 years old, that we all know that that's not what's important to them.
100%.
Having you around, having you at sports games, whether they're watching TV or watching a movie with you in your living room now or a brand new living room, it's not about the space that you're in. It's about, how you're interacting with them, and they could care less. They don't know every customer's house that you walk into and that they see you build, and they don't understand all the nuances and details and, cost associated with those things. And that's not a priority for them right now. It's having you around. It's having your wife around. It's having a good childhood. Being able to do the things they want to do, to learn, to have responsibility instilled in them. That's what's important. And that's what, when they look back on all this, and when you look back on all this, I would say that, if you give them a good life now, um, principally from moral perspective, values, it's way more important than them growing up in a nice new house.
No, agreed. I 100%. They don't know what nice. I mean, they see on social. It's tougher now. You can't hide it from 'em. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know what nice was. Obviously, there's nice neighborhoods that I grew up in Walpole, but it didn't define me,
No,
and
and
I don't want that to define my kids
if they want that, if that's what's gonna make your kids happy, then they figure out how to get that.
for themselves.
Yeah, like, if your kids realize, "Hey, you know what? I would've been a lot happier if we grew up in a dope ass house with, like, a sports court inside." Okay, cool. Then when you get done and you're a
Yeah,
grown adult, you figure out how to make that happen if that's what makes you happy, because maybe that's what makes me happy. So I'm not just gonna do that for the sake of doing that, so that and then you do that and that doesn't even make them happy in the first place. So, um,
I mean, they don't know what's gonna make them happy. I mean, they
no,
just
it's
know
too.
it's too early. They're not developed. But I'm with you 100%. It's just a really tough thing where it's like it. I know what I walk into when I walk home, and it's like I could do so many things, and it's like I know you have OCD, and so do I, and I battle it on a like. I find myself going to the bank and I straighten out every single card and everything that's there, and they make fun of me, and I love it. But like, there's so many things that I could fix in my house if I had money. But then if I had money, I'd probably try and fix other things,
Yeah,
like people that I know and need money if I had it. That it's just it's really tough. It's a double edged sword, and I get where Nick comes from. Is that he? It's funny. We have imagine growing up, we have endless opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Like when I grew up, it was like you would get a basement job and that's all you'd get.
yep,
It's all that was coming in. You're like, all right, I'll do this job. I'll get it. I'll bang it out. Imagine if I started this in this industry as a carpenter. It's like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can build a multi-million-dollar project if you want it. And it's like, holy shit. Like, why would you like, I look at my kids and even one of the guys we had him as a laborer for 3 years. I'm like, "Dude, that kid gets to write on his resume, he was a laborer for 3 years." I value that like
yeah,
unbelievable, and it's like we've set him up, he's on the right path, and he's gonna do it right where when he gets the opportunity, probably late 20s, if he wanted to go off on his own after running some of the jobs we've run, he is in the best position possible to have the least amount of risk and have the greatest amount of accomplishment on that project for him and the client and whatever subs are there. And I was like, that's how to do it. Like my son, I love that he's learning the craft a little bit. He's seeing it. He's doing decks with me. He's doing whatever it is. And I feel like I'm still my company's successful because I'm still able to do those things. Like on a Saturday, going and bang out a deck with my son on a project that we're going to turn over to
yep.
a client. I love that. It's trust me, I'd love to have a lot more things running smoother, but I also know I have to give it a little bit of time. And it's on my radar.
I think that that's what's important, to be cognizant of what's going on, what your needs are, what your family's needs are, and I understand that everyone wants financial freedom and everything else, but I don't know, when it comes down to it, you realize that life is very short and you don't know what it entails and how long you have and everything else, and you want to account for everything and give your kids the best start that they can, but um realistically, other than affording whatever lifestyle you need, money's not going to cure cancer, money's not going to cure the heart attack that you have. You know, those things, money can't help. You can't buy all of that. Money's not going to make you happy if you're depressed. If your kids are struggling in school, money's not going to fix that. It comes down to, there's more to it than just that, and I don't think that should be your main focus and driving factor in everything that you do in life. It's nice, it gives you nice things, you have a little less stress in your life, but it's definitely not a cure all.
No, I mean, I think in time, I think I'll be at a point where I'm comfortable, where like we can go to JLC and Like I'm taking Thursday and Friday off, and that's the first. I took a day off last week to drive my boys to camp.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie to you. My boys went to camp. I've worked till like 8:30 almost every night.
exactly.
It's in my DNA. I don't
And
know what else I would do.
it's just funny because when my wife and kids are away, I have this, you always have so much on your plate. And when they're away, there's not that anxiety in the back of your head that you need to get home to something because you're potentially missing out on
Yeah,
something
yeah.
where,
Something bigger. Yeah,
yeah, like they're gone and it's like I don't worry about getting out of the job at a certain time. I don't worry about getting, home before they're in bed or getting to them for dinner time. It's just like I'll work till whenever because I enjoy working and seeing progress makes me happy and moving ahead on a job makes me happy. Um,
well, it feels like the list you can actually get to it.
yeah,
It sounds crazy, but it's like the last week I've been able to catch up on a lot of stuff where I'm now running again, where I've opened up enough slack in my day where I can go running. And it's like, and it just feels better. And I'm like, all right, so how do I do this? And then we're going to hire somebody new that's going to come on board that just, I think we've outgrown certain people because of the projects. And I think that's part of we didn't talk to Nick about was, when you get a different caliber because you have the wherewithal and the knowledge to accomplish that project, then I feel like I have to be on that project
yeah,
because the team members, no matter how much you add up their experience, like you said, it won't add up to me. But if you look at the team should only be stronger as a team, as a group. Not, I'm not going to put those two people in my place, and that's what happens in a lot of companies, and they can do it. I mean, Brad's doing it in an amazing way. There's a lot of people, Patterson, and they're doing it amazing. I want it to be where you get me, we do all that, but now you're getting my team, so now we're better.
yeah. And it's not there's a lot of people who are employees, and that's not to devalue employees or say that they're
No.
not capable of doing what we're doing. I think what we're somewhat stressing is that the way that your company is structured, the way that my company is structured, I'm selling myself.
Yep.
And to then put somebody in my place is not fair because it's a bait and switch at that point. If I weren't selling myself, if I were selling a product that revolved around my employees, then that would be completely fine. But to sell myself and then give somebody something else, it's not fair. It's not the right thing to do, in my opinion. And that's just the way that my business is structured. You can have the most amazing, capable employees in the world. And if you sell yourself and then give them the amazing, capable employees, it's still not necessarily fair because the customer didn't, they hired you because of you. And that's just the way that I'm structured. That's not to say that every company is structured that way. That's just the way that I'm structured, and that's the way that I feel. So that's the way that I want to do things. um, there's a lot of very successful companies out there that probably do better work at a faster pace and can deal with customers better than me and do things that way. But that's just not what I want to do. So I'm going to stick to my guns and what I know and can handle best and sell myself and then be able to, fulfill what I feel as though I sold. And if I can't do that, then I shouldn't be selling myself.
100%. And that's a huge struggle. Like I said, that's going to be something that hits me all the time is that, am I giving 100% to my clients? And there's products that came on board that have grown in scope that we did and we executed that definitely stretched my bandwidth where I wasn't comfortable. And I told clients that I've neglected your project and you. I was up front and it was like, hey, I'm going to circle back and we're going to double down on this thing. I'm going to catch up on time and catch up on the experience. And I had one client say, I'm rooting for you. I
Yeah.
really am. I want you to come. And I'm like, all right, I'm good. Let's do this. And so it's just it's timed out perfectly that my kids are away, but really to dial it in. And it's made me feel, you can almost see it like I'm posting a little bit more on social. I feel like I'm a little bit more comfortable with
Yeah.
what's happening. And it's all, I've been living in a little box because it's like, how do you get these things solved? How do you get them all and you want to have, I want to have the team that can do this stuff, but I feel like everyone, I've done it, overpromised and under, you know, delivered. And at the same point, it's this people that don't want to even promise anything.
Yep.
It's like
It's
we'll get that done. It's like, what's the date? How do we anchor this? How do we get a date where I can then pile people in behind you? And it's really tough to navigate it. And it's a, I don't have all my systems down because the people I have aren't me and they aren't the employees that I've built the systems around in the past. I wish I
no,
had, it was
I don't
Ben and
think
me.
I don't know if they ever will be. And it's again, it's just how you're structured and what you want and what you're selling and what those expectations are for your customers. It's no different than if you had a job that somebody came to you and like they loved Benny. Just
Yep.
like they were like, listen, I understand what you do with the company, but like we love Benny. We're coming to you because we want Benny, and then you put somebody else on the job, or you put yourself on the job, right?
Yep.
Or they come to you because they love one of your PMs and they really mesh well with them, and then you run that job. And it's like, well, no, they came to you because they really liked your PM, and that's what, you know, if that's what they like and that's what you sold and that's what's going to make a successful project, then that's what needs to happen. And obviously you have to oversee that, but you have to, if that's what sold them on the job, I do believe you, you kind of have to fulfill that bargain. But you don't have to structure your business that way. That's just, it's what you want. It's what you want long term. It's what makes you happy now. Um, it's what you believe gives, you know, your customer, fulfills those expectations of your customer.
Plus, I'm happy if I'm running those jobs, you know, with the help of, with assistance from my team. I don't want to take, I don't, by no means am I doing it to take all the credit. I'll give the credit to my entire team, but I personally want to be out there doing it. And if I could do less pre-con, if I could do less selling, I hate it.
Yeah.
It's you're listening to people that aren't sure of what they want to be doing, and half the time, it's every fourth client's a great one,
And
and
it's
it's
not
like,
what you got into it for.
no, it's a necessary evil, and you have to do it. And it's like, if like I used to love when you had that pre-con form. It's funny, I had a great pre-con form. Then we did our website over, and it's just an email now, and it's like, dude, I don't know you,
Yeah.
and I want to know you, so then I have to send an email back, and then keeping track on everything. It just, I think it goes back to that internal clock in your head. Like, you know, like it's like Swingers, the movie. It's like, when do you call her back? 3 days?
Yeah.
It's like, that's, you have to know, read the table, read the room, and know when to hit people back that they're always excited about the project. And it's like driving home, my mind, I wish I was more ignorant to this business. My mind races with who's next, who's going to hit me up next. Like I say to my guys, it's like, I don't want the client hitting us up asking us what's going on. We should have already thought of that, and like, boom, here's what's happening tomorrow. Here's what's happening this whole week. Here's what's happening in the next 2 weeks. Whatever it is, you know, they should never be asking. That means they don't know. It means we're not doing our job. And that's what irks me, is that when stuff like that happens, I find myself on a daily basis right now texting almost every one of my clients updates. Just taking a quick picture, because honestly, pictures were huge for me, because I still go back and go, if someone claims something happened on a certain
Yeah.
day, I'm like, nah, dude, this is the photo I had from, like, you can, with Apple, you can put the address right into
Yep.
your iPhone search. It gives me 1,000 photos for that project. And I can't wait to get an intern so I can take those photos and I had this dream of making every product have a coffee table book
Yeah.
of all the photos that I took during the build, whether they're good ones or bad ones, but they're able to flip through it from start to finish, that it's a little coffee table book. I've started 2 of them, but it's like the best use of my time. No,
No, definitely
like,
not. Maybe when you're retired.
I know, but it would be such a great touch, dude, like a hard copy. And you know, it has different phases and has the dates to it, where that's, that's one of my long-term goals. I'm digging into, I haven't know if you tried it yet, but what's his face? No, what's his face? I hate when people say that. Brad from AFT, he turned me on to that Done Today app. It's an app where I can put all the brochures and all the closeout documents for my clients on it.
Oh, that's nice.
And yeah, so I have a call with the guy tomorrow who developed the app, so we can input all of it. So it's if my client they never go to that manual. They never go to that
Nope.
3-ring binder. I joke with them like, I'm going to make this for you. I'm going to burn time that I don't get paid for, and you're going to call me anyways. So now they'll have all their HVAC, what size filters, all that stuff will be in this app, so that way they can dig into it, which is
Yeah,
cool.
that's
So
nice.
doing that tomorrow. I told my clients about it. They loved it. So I'm hoping that's the next step. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that frees you
it's
up.
just it just for everybody. That way, if anybody calls and does that, something happens, anyone can refer to that app. I think it could get expanded where, the client's paint colors are in there. I haven't dug into it enough, because
Yeah,
that's something that always comes up. Grout colors, all that can be what color the cabinetry, all that can live there.
which is, I mean, huge and useful. Even as a sub early on, going on to jobs for a builder and tying into an existing space or remodeling something, or walking into a job that's just done, and well, what color is this room? Well, the customer has the cans outside, or what about this
Yeah.
floor finish, or we need to patch this one board. And it's like, if all of that were in one place, I don't know how many times you have to bother a builder or the GC on the job to try and get answers, or the designer, where, oh, let me dig into my files to see where they are. And it's like 2 hours later, and you're sitting there with standing still with people looking at you because you can't move ahead until you figure out what's going on. Let's see. Well, Nick had to peace out early, but we're not reading reviews, not getting into reviews this week.
There was a bunch though.
There were.
Yeah, I think so. I looked them the other day.
I don't know how to pull them up. Let's look up next time. We'll read
Next
some
week, yeah.
reviews when Nick's on. I'm not that fast on my phone to be pulling that stuff up. I think I've only looked up how to find reviews once before. But reviews are appreciated, and we'll read them
100%.
next week and then the following week after that. But you know where to leave reviews. On Apple, you can find us, the Modern Craftsman podcast, on iTunes. All the reviews help get us relevant in the podcast platforms, boost our ratings, so we can kind of expand who our audience is, and hopefully get out there to some younger men and women, just be more relevant in what we're doing. But shoot John a message on Instagram, the Modern Craftsman handle. Go on iTunes, leave us a review, shoot us an email, give us your feedback. Go to the Survey Monkey, tell us what you want to see differently, what's going to be more useful for you guys. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. The folks at Duration want to remind you to register for JLC Live August 12th to 14th in Providence, Rhode Island. John, you going?
I'm going. I'm speaking.
Oh, what day?
Right now it's Thursday. It is, I forget what time. It's right here. Sorry. It is Thursday at 10:30 a.m. I am doing a project management class.
That's awesome. I'm still trying to figure out my schedule to see what's going on. I'm going to be able to make it, but you definitely stop up and see the folks at Duration. Like I said, JLC Live August 12th to 14th. JLC Live Providence is one of the strongest shows in the country, no doubt. Come and surround yourself with the industry veterans for a look at everything new in building materials, products, practices, as well as better ways to run your business. And be sure to check out the Duration Molding, Siding, and Millwork products at booth 208, adjacent to Boral Building Products in the Creative Elevations demo area. We hope to see you there. So that's booth 208. Again, it's August 12th through the 14th in Providence, Rhode Island. If you guys haven't been there, there's a lot of trade shows that are out there, even, some of the bigger name ones. JLC is kind of no frills, all the important people. It's very distilled, and it's worth the trip. There's good information, there's good vendors, there's good products, there's not a lot of BS and a lot of fluff. So if you want to go to a building show that's kind of condensed to what you need to know and what's relevant, JLC is definitely the one.
And I've been to almost all of them except for the ones on the West Coast. This one has a huge turnout. So for products, for knowledge and information on classes, but also being able to bump into people that you have on social media as friends or mentors, this is the spot to do it. and to get back into something that we haven't been doing in a while, this might be the one to jump in and
it's a good one. Good
attend.
one to get your feet wet. But that's booth 208, Duration Molding, Siding, and Millwork. Jason DeBoro Building Products. As always, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Yeah, we appreciate it.